Welcome back, everybody. In the last video I was taking these solar panels off of my truck, and I was planning on putting them on the roof of the new workshop eventually. However, there was a tremendous amount of work before that was going to be ready for install, so instead I turned my attention back to my old workshop. Well, what used to be my workshop is now going to be a kayak hauler, so these legs that held up the shelves, they were going to be in the way. But I wanted to keep the shelves. So what do? Reconfiguring everything seemed to be the way to go. This piece of plywood came out of the truck actually and used to be one of the shelves that I wasn't going to need anymore. I had an idea that I would be able to turn it into something useful again. In order to keep the shelf, I was going to need some sort of leg back here, but at the bottom it needed to be wide enough to accept even the biggest kayak, like my Wilderness Recon. Nice. These new plywood legs, I think we're going to fit the bill. Now to just see, are they level? Yeah, not too bad. I'm not sure if the first one's more difficult or getting the second one to match the first one is more difficult, even though you've now done it already. Replication sometimes can be pretty difficult. But this project was simple enough, and I felt like I had made good progress, enough to turn my attention back to the workshop. There was a tremendous amount of preparation to do before I could paint the back of the truck. Including taking all these little dealies off that were part of an old system of hanging canvas. And there were a lot of them. I had been ignoring it for a good time now, and with it on my radar, I fired away at removing all these little dealies. One after another, after another, after another. They were even up on the side of the workshop, all over the place. And I didn't want to throw them away, so I decided to keep them. This jar here needed work, just like everything else. You can't just put solar panels up, you gotta fix the roof, but you want to put the paint on first, so if you gotta take the paint on, you gotta take these little dealies off, and then if you take the dealies off, you need a place to store them. And see how I get sidetracked? Here's another example. To help grind the paint off, I felt like I needed to get these bolts off the side, maybe one at a time, scrape, put them back in. They were T20s. I actually had a hand bit here, as you can see. It's kind of like an Allen wrench, but God, it seemed like, oh, this is too much work. And I had never really used that particular big Torx bit before. So I decided to modify it. A little bit of grinding to make a hex out of the back. And just like that, it would fit inside of my driver. How nice is that? Now let's just see if it works. Oh yeah, this made grinding everything back a lot easier. Not to mention putting the bolt back. That went a lot easier as well. Eventually, I would silicone it and it would probably seal better than what had been there originally. Anyways, back to the threshold, which I had started what seems like an eternity ago. After the paint dried, I put on some Antiskid. This was actually leftovers from the boat. Without a railing, the back of the truck seemed a little treacherous. I even see the dog slip on it once or twice. But not anymore. And now for a little bling. Yep, even though I scraped off those reflective stickers weren't worth anything, and they weren't centered. These are. Thank you very much. That does my OCD good. Now look at that. This truck is starting to come together, isn't it? But there was still a lot to do, and it felt like I was only inching along, even though I was, in reality, making some pretty good progress. In that vein, I kept going. I sprayed the railing on the side of the truck, and then turned my attention back to the doors, which still needed a little barrier here for the paint cans. I wanted to do something like I had done earlier, but I couldn't because I had glued a cover over the screws, and I wouldn't be able to remove that stud. This was going to require something completely different. Fortunately, I had myself a plan.
Let's take this one.
With that bungee in place, I felt like I was pretty safe even if I moved this thing down the road, that these cans wouldn't just fall off the door. Even if a heavy breeze came along while the doors were open, yeah, I felt like that was going to work. Too bad. Well, in the next video, I'm going to talk about putting a ceiling in this workshop to support those solar panels. That'll be an exciting step forward, worthy of its own video. Hopefully you'll come along and join me for it.